My name is Gus Henry. It's my first and middle name. My mom brought me to America when I was 10 years old, and I've never thought I'd be this wealthy, and of course spiritually, but also physically, in the sense that only Bitcoin can give this opportunity to people. I came from my mom used to make $15,000 a year. We came from American standards poverty, American standards. Of course, it's not poverty in America. People who say that they're poor in America, it's cute compared to some third world countries. Europe and America, we're very fortunate to live here. But basically, I grew up and worked with roofing. I've done restaurants. I dropped out of high school, proudly so. I hated high school. Last time we talked about this. And I went to work for a roofing company and did part-time in a little market bodega store. And I met many people, talked to many people. I love people, I love people so much that eventually I went to work for an ambulance service. And then during the pandemic, I don't want to nuke your channel. During the thing that happened, and the major thing that happened in 2020, my friends came over with a huge grill. I mean, they showed up, my childhood friends. It was a surprise for me. I was really excited. I had bought my house at that time. It had been 2 years I had bought my house. We did a beautiful barbecue here. It was a bunch of people. And then we made a pact. We made a covenant. Diogo, who was always being very responsible with his money, he was working when he was like 14, lying about his age just to work to help his mom pay the bills. Is amazing. Diogo Colucci. He made us all download Robinhood, and we were all into it because he's like, let's retire early. Let's let's make $1 million. We're going to be millionaires. And then we all made a pact to invest $100 every week. Now, when I was scrolling through Robinhood and find out what should I invest in, I came across this thing called Bitcoin. And I noticed that it went from $20,000 to $65,000 in a period of a couple months. I'm like, what is this? And I remember from 2018 when I was in the pizzeria, I had heard about it on the TV and I shrugged it off. It was 2018. Man, if I could have bought some Bitcoin there. But ever since then, I started studying Bitcoin. I joined Twitter X and Bitcoin Twitter X. Please, guys, make an account. Join X and follow as many Bitcoin accounts as you can. The Bitcoin people are very, very helpful. They help you with anything. Be careful of scammers, of course, just like anywhere. Even, you get text messages with scammers all the time, but join Bitcoin Twitter and talk to the people. They'll guide you through. But anyways, X helped me get a node. I have a Bitcoin node. I run actually more than a couple of them. I have, never put your eggs in one basket. I always have a few wallets that you spread with multi-sigs and you memorize it and you have it stamped in steel. But yeah, so that's a little bit of my background. I basically worked in the ambulance service and cleaning houses for the past 9 years, but the past 5 years I've been stacking sats and I haven't looked back. I haven't stopped. It's even more addicting, and Bitcoin is the thing you fall in love with. Things fade away. Your addiction or your love for things fade away with time. Bitcoin, the more you know Bitcoin, the more you fall in love with it, the deeper the rabbit hole gets. And there's no such thing as a Bitcoin expert. Even Andrea Antonopoulos said this, and he's the expert, right? But even then, he doesn't call himself an expert. So the more you know Bitcoin, it's getting to the point now that I made a goal to study C++, to get to know a little bit about coding and see how Bitcoin's made. But the more you get to know Bitcoin, the more of its beauties it improves your life. It completely changes your life. I mean, it's going to make you physically wealthy. According to world standards, you're going to be super wealthy. Your net worth is going to 10x, 20x, 25x. And yes, you're still early. Oh, but Bitcoin is still 100. It's 105,000. It's done. No, it's going to go to 1 million, and then it's going to go to 10 million. Satoshi predicted this. It's absolute scarce. And when people tell me they think that Bitcoin is related to Bitcoin, I just ask them, will the governments stop printing money? The answer is no. And there's only 21 million Bitcoin forever. So that's what I tell people. You are early to Bitcoin. Even if it's 5 years from now, you're early to Bitcoin.
Isn't it just today where Donald Trump said, I agree with Elizabeth Warren that we have to erase the debt limit and print a bunch of money? Isn't that the only thing that they agree on, that they have to print more money?
Dude, I couldn't believe my eyes last night when I got home from Costco. I was scrolling through, and Eden Simeka, you had him on because I told Simeka that you're a really cool podcast, and he came on. Um, I was like, Adam, is this real? I thought it was fake. I thought it was AI generated. People love the clickbaity stuff. No, it's real. So both the extreme right and the extreme left in America agreed that we should print money forever.
It's the one thing that is probably more true than the sun going up and you're breathing and natural laws. It's like they will print more money, and that's why Bitcoin will always go up in US dollar terms. It's so funny for me when I say like, oh, like 0.1 Bitcoin will be a lot of money one day. I never put a timeline on there. I never say like, oh, at 2035 or anything like that, because it will be true. 0.1 Bitcoin will be so freaking much. Maybe in 10 years, maybe in 100 years, maybe in 200 years. I don't know the timeline. It's impossible to predict. But if they keep printing money and Bitcoin is the standard, and there's just 21 million Bitcoin, 1/10 of a Bitcoin will be so freaking much that you won't even believe it. Maybe at the point where I'm already dead, like, okay, maybe it takes longer than I think. That can be happening. I think it will be a lot faster than most people think. But I don't want to do predictions on like timelines, because I think it's just impossible to know.
No, you can't.
But I would encourage everyone to be very like, look at your current Bitcoin view and 10x the bullishness of yourself, because then maybe you are at a good enough level. It's like,
Absolutely.
I had CK on recently, and he is really famous for saying like nobody's bullish enough on Bitcoin. He's like, why am I the guy saying that? Because it's like such an easy thing to say. Nobody's bullish enough on Bitcoin. Like, we never had the opportunity of what Bitcoin really is.
Yeah. This is why I'm so excited about podcasts like yours, man. I really appreciate it. When you reached out to me over a year ago to be in your podcast, I'm like, oh, this ought to be fun, every time I do this podcast with you, it's so much fun to ponder over these things, because most of us in our everyday lives, we don't know other Bitcoiners, and people don't usually talk about it. A lot of Bitcoiners are actually quiet about it because they're afraid of getting, the $5 wrench attack, which is totally understandable, especially in Europe where you can't own guns. But I was very excited about your podcast, and I'm still am very bullish on podcasts like yours, because eventually the masses are going to flock to your channel. It's happening. Simply Bitcoin is seeing it. Bitcoin for Millennials, I went to his podcast. It's a really cool dude, Bram. I loved the podcast you guys did together. I really enjoyed it, you and Bram. What a dynamic duo. You guys should have a show together. But it's people are going to flock into your channels, and they're going to consume. They're going to get addicted to your content, especially you. You interview like average, everyday people. And I hope we can make this a thing. Like every year, if you could have me back, I'd love that, just to get updates and stuff. But you have people from all walks of life. Just like that's how Joe Rogan made it to be 15 million downloads every episode. He interviewed his friends. He interviewed people he knew. He interviewed people who were experts in certain niches, and this is why the masses will flock to your channel. It's happening now. Once I think, I used to think that, and in a way, Bitcoin did have the grassroots from bottom to the top. Now I feel like it's meeting halfway. So the adoption started in 2010, 2011, 2012. It started from the bottom up. But now I feel like the Bitcoin adoption is coming from the institutions, right? It seems like it's stalled here with retail and everyday people. And now it seems that BlackRock, Fidelity, Citigroup, it's coming all from the top. And then the Trumps are now, apparently, by the way, Trump won't shut up about Bitcoin. So Trump is his son has said it multiple times. My dad's a Bitcoin maxi. How true is that? I don't know, but I believe it. He won't shut up about Bitcoin. and he is telling all his billionaire friends about it. Everybody knows Trump. Trump is, he's a socialite. He knows a lot of people. Not to mention Scaramucci and the people from the Shark Tank. Most of them love Bitcoin. So it's spreading throughout the culture. So eventually, all the masses are going to come to Bitcoin education. They'll need it. It's very, very tough when I first found Bitcoin. That's why I tell people join Bitcoin X, because people will help you. Wicked's Mod Bitcoin. There's so many channels that you can get a lot of information from, and people who say, the main message that I would have, if you're watching this in a year from now, 2 years from now, the main message that I have is Bitcoin only, because Bitcoin had the Immaculate Conception. Bitcoin, nobody knows who Satoshi is. He never moved his coins. There was no ICO, initial coin offering or initial public offering. There was no early investors like Ethereum. Ethereum had a small group of people who keeps dumping on retail, and they'll do it forever because they're multi-billionaires because they gave themselves the coins, and then that's the pre-mine. They don't even do the work for it. No, Satoshi Nakamoto worked for his million coins, and he's never moved them. So we think he's either dead or he lost his keys, or people have different theories about it, but his coins have never moved. At this point, it's never going to move. What human can control himself like this? He probably lost his keys, or they. And Bitcoin only because it is the immaculately conceived, scarce asset. Some people make some arguments for privacy coins. I'm not pro that, but just stick to Bitcoin. It's the only thing that you will ever need. It's the only had a fair launch. He didn't even have a launch, but Bitcoin is the only way to get out of from the banksters' thumb.
100%. It spreads like wildfire. And I think, was it you? I think you brought this Bitcoin is fire comparison in last time. Maybe I'm wrong. If I remember correctly, I think you mentioned how Bitcoin is fire and how Bitcoin is such an invention like fire. Can you remember if that was you? Maybe.
Yes. Yeah, I mentioned a lot. So Bitcoin is akin to fire. The wheel, and that's what I said last time. I think that's what you're remembering. Bitcoin is akin to the internet, to flight. Bitcoin is it's a discovery. I don't think it's an invention, because Bitcoin has always existed. It's digital scarcity. Matter can neither be created nor destroyed. Matter is energy. Energy is matter. E equals mc squared. It's obvious. It's a law of physics, and the laws of thermodynamics dictate. And Bitcoin is just the discovery of digital scarcity. So it is a ledger, an immutable ledger in cyberspace. It is trustless, permissionless. It can be used by anyone, anywhere. Can be sent across across the earth, the speed of light, through layer twos, and it is immutable. It is uninflatable. The banksters can't inflate it. The politicians cannot manipulate it, right? We have this trouble in society where politicians are all corrupt, right? Doesn't matter if you're in Nigeria, doesn't matter if you're in Russia, doesn't matter if you're in China, doesn't matter if you're in the United States, doesn't matter if you're in Brazil. You can mention all 200 countries. Doesn't matter where you are. Politicians are snakes, they're liars, they'll work for the people who pay them the most. Bitcoin is incorruptible and unmanipulable by them. So it doesn't matter. They can't promise, all right, BlackRock, if you give me $1 billion, that's what they have backdoor deals all the time. People, plebs don't know. Most people don't know, but Elizabeth Warren is taking money from the banks. Trump is taking money from giant pharmaceutical companies. He's never going to be anti-establishment in a way. People think that he is a bull in a china shop, in the sense that he is destroying modern day politics, the status quo, but he's still the very much the establishment itself. But the point is that nobody can manipulate Bitcoin. Bitcoin is unmanipulable. Politicians can't stop it. They can't alter it. They can't inflate it. They can't manipulate it. And that's the beauty of Bitcoin, is that when you take a piece of that Bitcoin, only 21 million forever, you take a piece of that Bitcoin, it's yours to keep. And try getting gold across borders, right? Oh, I don't need to go across borders. I don't. Well, you're not in Ukraine. You're not in Russia. You're not in China. You're not in North Korea, right? You're not oppressed, in the Western countries. We have such good lives, man. I always remind people. I always remind friends and family. We're so privileged. And I hate to use that word. We are so privileged. I have family, from all colors, religions, and background. I have family from, my both sides of my family. From my mother's side, they all mostly married other Italian people. From my father's side, they intermixed with, Native American Indians. They intermixed with Black people. They intermix, and it's such a beautiful family. I have cousins from all colors and backgrounds. And I'm telling you, third world countries are a terror, a horror. If you think your politicians are corrupt, third world country politicians, they are the worst. And they take all of their constituents' money, all the voters' money. They have backdoor deals where they pretty much sell the country to enrich their pockets. So Bitcoin is a way for the plebeian, for the working class to say, enough. This is my money. You cannot take this away from me. And even if they try, they cannot take it away from you, because you just got to memorize 12 to 24 words. And that's it. You're free to go anywhere you want. And you're free to move to a jurisdiction that's going to be friendly towards you, right? If you're being oppressed in North Korea, well, take your stuff and go. If you're living in Ukraine and there's war, take your stuff and go. If you're living in Russia and you're a homosexual, for example, take your stuff and go. If you're a Jew in Nazi Germany, take your stuff and go. That's Bitcoin. That's the power that Bitcoin gives you. And when people realize this, they're going to flock to Bitcoiners channels because they'll need the education that you provide.
Thank you for watching this video. This was only a snippet of the podcast. And if you want to watch the full episode and get all of the context of this episode, you can click right here or here. Oh, maybe also here.